Hi, my name is Chris Pells. In this video we're going to learn how to create and use cookies in an ASP.NET website. So get started by creating a website. And as many of you know, the cookies are small pieces of text that you can associate with a website, which are transferred down to the user's computer and stored on their hard disk when the user visits a page on the website. Cookies can be useful for storing small bits of information like identifiers for the user, last date and time the user visited the website, and other similar pieces of information. So what we're going to do is open up the code behind the default ASPX page, and I will add a page load event. And then in the page load event, what we're going to do is demonstrate various ways that you can create and manipulate cookies on this website. Now, before we get started looking at how to create and use cookies, we should understand some of the limitations of cookies. First is that they store a relatively small amount of information, up to 4096 bytes. Also, most browsers limit the number of cookies associated with a particular website, and that is typically around 20 cookies. And then overall, there's a limit that the browser imposes on the number of cookies across all sites, and that is about 300 cookies. So consider those factors when you start to plan how to use cookies in association with your website. And the last thing about cookies is that all the data is stored as text, so it's available for access on the user's computer. So you would not want to store any sensitive information in a cookie, just information that helps identify a particular user, last visit to the site, and other non-critical information in case the user views the cookie while it resides on their website. There is a way to send the cookie information down to the browser and back up to the server in a secure fashion, but even though it's secure during the transmission process, the cookie is still stored as plain text when it resides down on the user's hard disk. Now, the first thing we'll look at is how to write information to cookies and then have the cookies sent down to the user's browser and hard disk. And all the cookies are stored in a cookies collection, which is in the response object. So here on the page, if we enter or use the response object, we'll see there's a cookies collection. And then there are two ways that we can add a cookie to the cookies collection. One is to just explicitly declare the name of the cookie. For example, let's say this cookie is going to store the date time of the last visit. So we'll call the cookie last visit. And then one of the properties of the cookie is value, and we'll assign to the value property the current date time. So we'll say value equals and date time dot now, and we'll set it to string, because remember, cookies always store information as a string value. Now, one of the other commonly used features of cookies is to set an expiration date and time for the cookie. And the way you do that is to access the cookie and set a particular property related to expiration. So let's get at this cookie that we have here. We'll say response.cookies last visit. And then we're going to set the expires property. And this is a date time, so we're going to set this equal to datetime now add days, and we'll set that to 1. So what's going to happen here is this cookie called last visit will expire 1 day from the current time. And as far as how this expiration works, in that the data is stored in the cookie down on the user's hard disk, and then the next time that the user opens up the browser and visits this website, the browser looks at the expiration date of the cookie, and if the date is passed, then the browser would delete the cookie from the user's hard disk. Now, there's another approach to doing what we just did up above, where we access the cookies collection directly, and that is to create an instance of the cookie class. So we'll dimension a variable we'll call cookie as an HTTP cookie. And we'll set that equal to a new HTTP cookie. And here we specify the name of the cookie. In this case, we'll call it last visit. and that creates the cookie. Then we set the same properties that we set above. So we'll go cookie.value, and we'll set that equal to datetime.now to string, and we'll set the expires property. And we'll set that to 1 day in the future. Set that to 1. Then what we need to do is to add this cookie to the cookies collection in the response object. So we just go response.cookies.add, pass in the cookie instance that we created, and then this set of statements is equivalent to the first one where we access the cookie directly. Now you can store multiple cookies for the same user. So what we'll do is add a second cookie here. We'll use the response object, the cookies collection directly, and we're going to store the user ID and the value, and we're going to set that, let's say, equal to 10. We'll have it expire the same as the first cookie. We'll say user ID expires, and we'll set that equal to datetime.now add 1 day. And so now we have 2 cookies down on the user's machine, one storing the information for last visit and the other storing the user ID. And one of the things you'll find is that if you store just one piece of information in a cookie, you're going to use up the allotment of 20 cookies per website fairly quickly. So you can take advantage of another feature of cookies, and that is you can store multiple values in the same cookie, or as they're called, subkeys. And to store last visit and user ID in subkeys, we would do it as follows. So we'll take the response object, cookies collection, and this time we're going to name the cookie user data, and then we're going to implicitly access and create a subkey called last visit, and we'll assign to that the date time now to string, and then for the user ID we'd go response.cookies, same cookie, user data, but we'll do a different subkey, and this one will be user ID, and to this one we'll assign a value of 10. And then we can set the expiration date to this single cookie, and we'll say user data, and set the expires property equal to date time now add 1 day. So we'll go add days 1, and this would have a single cookie with the 2 values expiring 1 day from now. And as you might see, there is an advantage to storing multiple values in a cookie, that it contains or packages them up, and it also, you only have to set the expiration date once, and that expiration date applies to all the values or subkeys that reside in the cookie. Now you can create this using the other syntax up above. So we can dimension a cookie. We'll call this cookie1 as an HTTP cookie equal to a new HTTP cookie, and we'll call this user data, and then in cookie1 dot values, not value but values, and here we can set the last visit equal to the date time dot now to string. We can set cookie1 dot values user ID equal to 10, and we can set the expiration, and we'll set that again to now and add 1 day, and then we add that to the response.cookies collection. Add, and we'll add cookie1. So again, that is equivalent to accessing the cookies collection directly. Now the next thing we're going to look at is controlling the scope of the cookies, And by that I mean all the cookies associated with a website are sent up to the server every time a user requests any page in the website. However, you can restrict what cookies are sent to a particular part of the website, and that's called scoping cookies. And there's two ways that you can scope cookies. The first is to scope a cookie to a particular path. And let me take one of the cookies that we created previously, and let's just take this one here starting on line 22.